Hey everybody, Mo here, and today I'm bringing you guys another Meta Monday, where I go over the meta for the last 7 days, kind of give you an idea of what you can play on ladder, what you can expect to play against on ladder, and kind of help prepare you for this upcoming week so you know what to play, what to try to beat, and you can kind of formulate your game plan to work for you in that regard. So there were two tournaments this weekend that we're going to be going over as well, and so we get to look at the ladder meta as well as the tournament meta and kind of see how it's evolved. There is also, I believe, this week is our first like micro expansion type thing where we get a balance patch, which is going to be very good, and we're going to get a couple of cards, if I recall correctly, like a little mini set. I don't know if that's 100% true, so don't quote me on that, but I've been told, and that's what I think is happening. I believe tomorrow we should be getting the spoilers on that. So everything you read here might just, see today, might get disregarded. It really depends on how the patches and stuff like that goes for this weekend. But so far, we'll just assume that all of that doesn't matter, and we'll give you this. So before we get into the video Meta Monday, I want to remind you guys that 68% of the people that watch my videos aren't actually subscribed to me. If you could do me a huge favor, click that subscribe button, I'd greatly appreciate it. We've knocked that number down from like 73% down to 68%. So huge appreciation. We're being very consistent with our content. I took the last week and a half to kind of look over and see what's kind of worked in the past and what you guys want. I'm putting out polls now, probably not daily, but I'm going to try to do daily polls, but put out polls. So if you guys want to go interact with those, there'll be things like, meta related, LOR related, some not LOR related. Try and help gauge the audience here and kind of figure out what's going on. But we are going to be back with the like 99% competitive content, and then I'm going to put out like one non-LOR video a week, but that's in addition to the 5 competitive LOR contents a week. So you'll get 2 LOR like meta videos a week. So it's gonna be your Meta Monday and your Sweaty Thursday, and then you're gonna get 3 deck guides or competitive games. So it's not gonna be fun decks, it's not gonna be funny gameplay videos, not gonna be like the for fun gauntlets. I'll post like my gauntlet runs of like best in 3 and stuff like that, but not for fun gauntlets. And yeah, so if that's something you're interested in for the competitive LOR, again, to try and get people into it, help you prepare for the first actual real competitive season that takes off in about a month from today, then yeah, it's going to be very exciting, and this is going to be the place you want to be. So if you have a friend that's looking to get into LOR, or if you're yourself are looking to get back into LOR competitively, tell them come check this channel out, because it'll help you jumpstart your LOR competitive career, and it'll be really good for them. So without further ado, let's get into what the meta looks like. So the most played deck in Masters right now is Kaleona, which is kind of surprising. I don't think the deck is that good, but the decks I play on ladder are Nora Nar and Any Ezreal. So it makes sense that I personally don't find this deck very good. But obviously the deck is very good. I have my biases because this is like the only deck I play on ladder is Nor. And so obviously I'm going to think the deck is bad if I just sit here and play a deck that's 30% into it, or technically it's 70% into it. You only have a 30% chance to beat me. Of course, I'm going to think the deck is bad. But after looking at the stats and playing it myself a little bit, deck's quite good. It beats a bunch of aggro decks, beats some of the most popular decks in the meta. The big thing here is it beats RYZE, just because you are this like really aggressive style deck. If you see here, almost every single top performer with the deck has an 80% win rate, which is not common, and that's also how you know a deck is good. You know a deck is good if every person that's playing it at a top level has this like 80% win rate. Because you can look at these other decks and be like, will be like, Any Ezreal is really good, right? Like, Any Ezreal is such a good deck, and then you look, and it's like, there is one person with an 80% win rate. So, like, the deck is not bad, the deck is very good, but it still takes, like, a lot to pilot it, and even some of the best pilots don't have 80% win rates. Another one, like, Teemo Tristana SI, same thing, they don't even have an 80% in their top players. The Nora Nar, where's Nora Nar? Is it just not popular? Does Nora Nar fell off, or did I pass it? There's no way Nora Nar is, like, this low on the play rate, right? No way. That's very interesting. Yeah, anyways, so point being is that the deck is very good because it can carry your limp plays across the finish line. If you misplay, if you're playing correctly, if you get, not good hands, it does not matter because the deck will be good enough to carry you. And this is something that RYZE talks about quite often in his, just play good decks propaganda for the like competitive players and tournaments and stuff like that is don't try and be 9 head with your tier 9 decks. Just play good decks that can carry you if you misplay or all this other stuff. This is what he's talking about. Get you a deck that can like almost guarantee you an 80% win rate if you're a good player. And there you go. So like depending on, and again, this is in Masters, so against the other top players of the game. So you sitting in gold or platinum or diamond are guaranteed, almost guaranteed to get that 80+% win rate and just like fly through those ranks, because this is how it's performing against the best players. Surely you're, you know, if you're in silver, gold, platinum, anything below Masters, you can easily have this same style of win rate. So it's very cool. If you want me to put a deck guide out on this, if maybe you don't understand how to play it, or it looks kind of confusing to you, and you're like, hey, I tried that deck and it felt like poo-poo. Why didn't I have 80% win rate, Mr. YouTuber, Mr. Streamer? Where's my LP at? I can put a deck guide out for you if you want that. Let me know down in the comments below. Deck number 2 we're going to go over is RYZE. So RYZE, kind of similar. You see here, people say this is the best deck in the game. 1, it has a sub 50% win rate, which is absolutely wild to me. And 2, there's only one player with above an 80% win rate. All the other players have 75% win rates, but this player also does have an 87.5% win rate, so it is very good. Alan, very good player. His list is also much different than the other ones. I think he's over here playing like health pots. Yeah, 2 health pots. So very, very different list than some of these other players are on. I don't know if I've seen health pot Pharaoh Prescience. Like, people are out here on some wild RYZE builds. So yeah, wild RYZE builds, man. Something you want to check out is the health pot tech to help you against aggro. Maybe that's why he's doing so well. Same with Pharaoh Prescience, the 0 mana tech. They're also on Tasty, so that could be some tech. Oh, I also saw a little Nopify in there. So yeah, RYZE being a sub 50% win rate is really, really surprising to me. And I actually have a deck guide coming out tomorrow. So if you want to learn how to play RYZE, I have a deck guide out tomorrow. Spoiler alert, I don't actually win every single game. So I show you what the games that you do lose look like and what you can do in those games to kind of give yourself the best odds. And then also just that sometimes the deck doesn't win. Like sometimes you just lose. And that's perfectly fine because RYZE is really broken. So sometimes you just lose, but then you're going to win the next like 3 or 4 in a row. So it is this like almost slot machine-esque style deck of like hope you get good matchups, because you see your matchups are very polarizing in the sense of look at these matchups over here, 23, 27. Like you have so many 30% win rate matchups. This is insane. So I've never seen this many 30%, 35%. This guy is 15, 16 if you go up to 36%. Like 15 to 16, 35, 36% or worse matchups. And at the same time, they have the 65%. They go almost 65%, favored matchups. Like, that's absolutely insane. That's not something you'll find very often unless it's against, like, really bad or, like, obscure decks. So, like, RYZE is very, very good. And, like I said, I'm putting a deck guide out tomorrow to kind of help you guys get better at RYZE, and maybe I can show you guys something that you're not understanding on the RYZE or something that you're doing incorrectly on the RYZE. So if you're interested in how to play RYZE better and how to get to these win rates of these like high 75%, 80% win rates, check out my guide tomorrow. Make sure you're subscribed and turn the bell click that bell, turn notifications on so you know exactly when the video goes live. Deck number 3 is Jayce Heimer. So Jayce Heimer is very interesting. And Jayce Heimer came back, but not for the reasons most of you probably think. Most of you guys probably think, oh, Jayce Heimer came back because it's a Noxus control deck, and it's a Shadow Isles control deck, and there's a lot of Noxus control decks and Noxus decks out there that this deck should be smoking. Kind of. So what you see here, it's obviously good into the Noxus and into the mid-range. So you're good into the Anti-Gens, the Gwyn Cats, these random mid-range piles, the Noxus control, the random mid-range piles. Oh, look at that. It's 60% into Illaoi Twisted Fate. That's crazy. And then here is where it gets surprising and why I think the deck has evolved more than people know. And it is this RYZE matchup. And people are saying, whoa, why does this control Shadow Isles deck beating RYZE? Why is the control Shadow Isles deck beating Illaoi Twisted Fate? And I'm like fairly confident it's because people have figured out that Jayce Heimerdinger is not a control deck. Jayce Heimerdinger is a tech aggro burn deck. It is a slow burn deck. As much as people like to meme about the word slow burn, I think it's very much a slow burn deck with Hextech Handler being the star of the show. And I think I'm gonna bust out the little notepad here so we can start the notepad going. So we can talk about Heimer Jayce is no longer a control deck. It's what are these things are called techs, right? We'll just call it turret. It's turret aggro with burn finisher. We'll make this a little bit smaller here. With burn finisher. And I think that the people that have figured this out are having massive success with the deck and having a lot more success in matchups that are not good compared to the people not playing the deck that way. Again, the two biggest things are the RYZE matchup and the Twisted Fate Alawi, the pink Alawi matchup. Both of these matchups, you would think, are bad because both of these decks here, the Ionia region combos, should destroy Shadow Isle's control, and typically they do. If you look at RYZE, what is it beating? Oh my gosh. SI control, SI control, SI control, SI control, SI control, SI mid-range control, SI mid-range control. But what is it losing to? Aggro. Hextech Handler is an amazing aggro lord. It is insane. You go down to Pink Alawi, which I don't think is very popular. There's got to be a quicker way to scroll for this. And we look at Pink Alawi, and what is it beating? Oh, it's beating control, SI control, SI mid-rangey stuff, SI control. Like, it's beating SI control. But what is it losing to? It's losing to aggro. People have figured out that if you play Jayce Heimerdinger as an aggro deck, the deck can perform in almost every matchup. And it's been kind of insane. And that's why I think a lot of people are not understanding some of the matchup spreads because they play ladder and then they play one particular play style and their particular play style isn't working for them. So then they think, oh, well, that matchup's obviously unwinnable and anyone that says otherwise is just an idiot. But then you have people like this that are 60% into RYZE and 60% into Pikalawi. You have to wonder, well, is everyone just horrible at this game? Or, like, are you possibly just playing the matchup incorrectly? And then, so if you look at these, most of these are going to be playing some amount of Albus Ferris, because this card recently got buffed. I believe it does 4 base damage, no, 3 base damage now. Just 3 base damage now. So you see here, they're all teching in the 1 Albus for the late game burn. And your game plan is going to be just the mulligan for your Hextech Handler, play, Production Surge on turn 3, or play whatever 6 mana cost spell on turn 3, into the Hextech Handler, into the Hextech Handler, into the Production Surge. You win the game, because your opponent just simply cannot deal with that amount of buffed turrets. So I think once people have figured that out, the win rate of this deck will actually go up by a lot. I think Jayce Heimer is probably like a 56+% win rate deck, and like maybe 57, 58%. And to put things into perspective, the highest win rate deck right now is 58%, followed by 56%, so 2% lower. So I think Jayce Heimer easily has the potential to be the highest win rate deck in the game if people can learn when to play the aggressive style of the deck and when to play control, because you don't want to play aggressive all the time. Like, you don't want to play aggressive into this stuff. Like, this stuff you're beating because you are just like control, right? Like, you're beating Noxus control because you're control, you're SI control. So you want to play that slow game plan out. But when you can learn to flip that switch and play the deck in a non-orthodox way with that Hextech Handler aggro, that's when you're going to start beating this Ionia deck, and this Ionia deck, and this Ionia deck, and even this Ionia deck. Like, Lee Sin has destroyed Shadow Isle's control decks since the dawn of Lee Sin. And look at this. So that is probably the biggest takeaway from today, is going to be Jayce Heimer needs to be played as an aggressive deck sometimes, and this win rate will shoot up to 56%. And to show that, I'll put a deck guide out on Jayce Heimer next week, I already have this week's laid out, but next week's I'll show you. Jayce Heimer, assuming the meta doesn't shift a lot with the upcoming patches, I'll put out a Jayce Heimer guide and I'll kind of show you guys what I'm talking about. And if you're interested in just seeing how it works, go follow me on Twitch because I'll be playing Jayce Heimer on ladder and I'll be showing my Twitch chat what I'm talking about. Yeah, so now I know this video's gotten kind of long because that was a really big thing, but that's the biggest thing I wanted to show you guys. That's just a big takeaway in card games in general, is a lot of times there are other ways to go about playing a deck that aren't just the most straightforward lines, and the people that figure that out first will have the most success with it, and then it'll leave everyone else doubly guessing and wondering like, oh, they're just lucky, oh, they're playing against bad players, bad opponents, you know, coming with all these excuses, instead of just thinking, well, maybe I'm doing something wrong, and maybe they're just doing something right, and I need to adapt. And a lot of times players won't think that I need to be the one adapting, and instead they'll just make excuses. But I'm letting you guys know that maybe you should try adapting in this scenario. Number 4, Jayce Lux. I'm not really too sure why this deck's popped up in popularity. Has a very solid win rate, 53%, not bad. Let's see here. Beats Shellfolk, beats Shadow Isle Control. Good enough for me. As you see, once we get into the tournament decks here, spoiler alert, Shadow Isle Control is on a rise. It also beats Fearsomes. So beats Fearsomes because you play a bunch of Fearsome blockers. You're going to beat the Nora TF Shellfolk deck, which is very popular in Masters Ladder also. It's the top of Masters Ladder. And you are just smoking all the control decks, like Noxus Control, SI Control, Noxus Control, SI Control. It looks like it's beating those. So this deck looks very well positioned because of those reasons. Number 5 is Ixtalia. So this deck's actually rank 1 in NA right now. And I'm actually putting out a deck guide on this deck Wednesday is when it's going to come out. And yeah, this deck is very cool. So this deck, I wonder if this is playing the Unleash. Yep, this is literally just a copy-pasted version of the rank 1 deck in North America. And it's very cool. You just be really aggressive. It's playing 3 Waste Walkers. So you beat the RYZE decks, you beat the control decks because you have Deny. You can beat Noxus Control often because they have to commit 2 spells at a time to activate things like Disintegrate. Or if you're like doing a big open attack, they're going to be like, oh, here's like all these, you know, spells on this deck to stop you from hitting me. Right Negation is insane into those. Arsenal is a really good end game. Again, Waste Walker having overwhelm and getting really big, it's hard for your opponents to deal with. Hourglass, keeping your opponents alive. There's not really much landmark disruption in the game right now. So having Hourglass is basically just 3 mana save your champion. And yeah, you get really aggressive. People are playing the, Hexplosive Minefield and the Unleash Energy combo again. So you can kind of get rid of your opponent's few blockers that they have left, where you go Hexplosive Minefield, you stun something, and then Unleash Energy, Burst Speed, give something +4/+2, and then also remove a second blocker. And then now your opponent's just lost, 2 blockers in 1 action, and it's going to be really hard for them to not die because of that. No Absolver, that's the number 1 question people ask, like, oh, why don't you play Absolver? You don't really need it. There's also no Magus because this is a very low to the ground aggressive style deck. So you get rid of the Absolver, you get rid of the Magus, and we're just going to simply kill them. You're just going to hit them over and over again, force them to trade early, and then Ziggs and Talia just do enough burn damage without the Absolver that's not really needed. All right, number 6 is Darius LeBlanc. So this deck is probably the most surprising one on here. It's unironically Yetis. This deck is definitely not like the worst deck I've ever seen. It's not a 50% win rate deck, so it can't be that good. It's beating Ziggs Talia, which is probably the number 1 reason it's being played right now, and it is okay into RYZE if they don't get a bunch of stuns and or you get a bunch of Yetis early. And I think that's the biggest thing, is the fact that you can kind of cheat out this abominable Yeti really early, and it's hard for them to deal with it. So if you open like Yeti Yearling turn 1, Yeti Yearling turn 2, and then you just start like vomiting out 5/5s, it's really hard for your opponent, your RYZE opponent, to stall long enough to do anything. The recalls don't do anything on it because if they recall it, you just get it back at the start of next turn. And again, them forcing them to have stun after stun after stun starting on like turn 3, turn 4 is just not really easy for the RYZE deck. On top of that, you do play Darius with Rally, which is kind of funny. You play Might, which is really cool. You play Spirits Unleashed. So there's this deck is just really cheeky way of killing RYZE players if you're not expecting it, as well as it kind of just like smokes random like garbage. You're going to beat Alawi because you're just simply bigger than it, and you're going to beat Ziggs Talia for the same reason. You're just bigger than it, and they can't get through your 5/5s most of the time. All right, number 7 is Fearsomes, and this is just solely going to be because it beats RYZE, not really anything else. We'll look at the top played player here. Oh, look at that, Fearsomes. Yeah, Soul Cleave, there's no burn at all. The only Noxus is going to be for Precious Pet most of the time. We'll take a look at the matchups. Oh, look at that. It's beating all the Nora decks because Nora decks don't have fearsome blockers. And then it's going to be beating RYZE because RYZE also doesn't have fearsome blockers. And RYZE is just kind of really, really bad into aggro, and then specifically bad into fearsome aggro because they don't have fearsome blockers. Their only anti-aggro tool is going to be Eye of the Dragon. Fun fact, both Eye of the Dragon and the Dragonling it spawns are, not fearsome blockers, so you're chilling. And number 8 is the Noxus control deck. So Broadmane has kind of fallen off. A lot of people have stopped playing it, mostly because a lot of people have started targeting it. As you see here, Fearsome's kind of beats it because you don't play fearsome blockers, so it's hard for you. This deck is really bad into Noxus control. You kind of smoke it. Zigstalia is pretty good into Noxus control because combo decks have always been good into Noxus control, and they have a deny that stops all of your disintegrate combos. Jayce Lux seems to be good into Noxus control. I don't really know about that. I haven't seen it too much, but it seems to be pretty good. I think if these are the versions playing the equipment card has like really messed me up. I've lost the equipment card multiple times. But it doesn't look like they're playing the equipment, so I'm not too sure how they're beating that deck. Jayce Heimer is going to beat you because it's SI control. RYZE is going to beat you because you can't interact with it, and then this deck beats it. So out of the 7 decks in the top 8 that aren't Noxus control, you lose to I think 4 of them. So very, very popular to beat on this deck right now. Granted, this deck is still very good. It still beats some popular decks, like you see it beats the Yeti deck. It's going to be beating the Kayle Leona deck. You're going to be beating all the like fucking random garbage that people are playing right now. You still are going to be the anti-mid-range goats. And the only thing is, again, you're just going to get smoked by all the SI control. What are your worst matchups? Oh, SI control, SI control, SI control. RYZE, like, oh, SI control, go figure. So the meta's kind of evolved into this, like, I hate Broadmane, I hate Noxus control decks, so I'm going to hard target it. And so it's kind of a feels bad day for the Noxus control decks. So if you're going to play on ladder this week, I would highly recommend probably not playing Noxus control unless, again, the meta kind of shifts. As far as win rate goes, I actually think the best deck on ladder to play right now is this Gnar Tristana deck. And I'm actually putting a deck guide out on this deck on Friday. So this deck is very, very surprisingly good. Like, it's actually, like, surprisingly good. I beat the so you beat like all these like slow kind of garbagey decks. You're gonna smoke RYZE because you're just super fast Reveler's Feast. Surprisingly enough, I think you actually beat Noxus control if you play for the Owlcat game plan, because they just simply cannot beat Owlcat most of the time, and it's really hard for them to deal with you. So I think these matchups can kind of get flipped around. These are also really low sample size because this deck is just not played. So you see it's only like 43 matches, but I think you can actually win those matchups fairly well. And then of course you're going to beat like a lot of the control decks because you're just simply faster than them. So you see here, oh, Noxus or SI control. Like, oh, why is this aggro deck beating SI control? You're just too fast. You're just too fast. You tax their mana way too much. Tristana requires a 6 mana answer from most control decks. And it's just, they just cannot keep up with you. They can't keep up with how many units you're spitting out. And then on top of that, once they tap out for their vengeance or something, then you just go Reveler's Feast on that unit, and then you blow them up out of nowhere. So I think this deck is insanely strong. That is why it has the highest win rate in the game right now. Outside of that, I mean, Leona, Kayle, for the same reasons. It's just they both do very similar things. And then so that's going to be it for the ladder takeaways. So we're going to go to a little notepad here before we switch over to tournament. So we're going to say ladder takeaways is Nox control equals bad guy on ladder, and then a sad face because I like that deck. So a lot of decks were created, or we'll say decks have been created with the sole purpose of beating Nox control, and people hate Nox control a lot, so they're hard targeting it on ladder. Probably stay away from Nox control if your goal is to make number go up. Number being your LP number. So that's the main takeaway. Aggro is actually looking very strong. So we'll say, we'll bring this down over here. So we'll say aggro is looking very strong. Best decks at the moment are Tristana, Nox Aggro, and Leona, Kayle. How do you spell Kayle? Kayle. Oh, that was right. Hail, Nox, Aggro. So on top of that, just playing Jayce Heimer as an aggro deck is like very good. So aggro is actually looking very, very good, and fearsomes, and like kind of fearsomes. But if you play fearsome, you're lonely. Fearsomes is lame. So it's kind of the takeaway for ladder right now is Noxus control like kind of sucks because so many people are hard targeting it. Granted, if you're not getting hard targeted, you're probably winning the matchup. Outside of that, aggro is looking very solid. Tristana Nar, Noxus obviously very solid, highest win rate in the game. Hail Leona is not only the most played deck, but also the second highest win rate. So if something gets heavily played and still has a very high win rate, it's very good. And then Fearsomes also has like very polarizing tables. You're either gonna be very good into something or very bad into something. So take with that what you will for your ladder games. So next off is we're going to finish it off. We're going to go to tournaments. So there were two like biggish tournaments that were played this weekend. There was a Saturday Scramble hosted by Cash, which had a $160 prize pool, and then there is the OLS, which is every other weekend, and it had a $100 prize pool. So I'm going to go over the Saturday Scramble. This is the tournament I played in. I went 0-2. I played against Bajatak round 1 with a very hard counter lineup, and then round 2 I played against, I don't remember who they were, but they also had a counter lineup. So even in tournaments, people were on the counter Noxus control because my lineup was 6 Broadmain and then RYZE, so they would simply ban RYZE and then beat my Noxus control decks. So right here we have Jayce Heimer, FTR, and RYZE. Easy to win, won the cash tournament. So this is going to be like the more stacked tournament. If you see here just in the top 4, you have easy to win Roji, Yang, and Aikado. So very stacked tournament here. And we'll see the deck that he brought with was, oh, look at that, triple Shadow Isles. Still hard targeting Noxus. Like, hard targeting Noxus, still beating a lot of the mid-range decks also, I should say. So it's not only that, like, triple Shadow Isles just beats Noxus control and that's it. You're beating Noxus control while also beating other mid-range decks, which is very solid spot to be in. So you see here, this is his lineup. He brought the Jayce Heimerdinger, FTR with this, which has all of the avalanches and stuff back in it. So it has Avalanche, Blighted Ravine, Vile Feast. This one's not playing Box, but it's playing a Piercing Darkness. When I played against Baja, I was tempted to leave this Field Rush open because a lot of people have been playing the like really greedy Field Rush list of like just ramping. But Baja's list was also 3 Blighted Ravine, 3 Avalanche, get this, a Piercing Darkness, a Box, and a Withering Wail. So I was like, yeah, man, like you are very much like going to destroy any units that I could possibly create. You're going to stop any type of aggression I could possibly have, and because of that, it's just not worth me trying to combat through that, and I just went ahead and banned it. And then the third deck is RYZE. So Nora SI, again, just SI control, beating the mid-range decks, and then you're eventually going to win the game through to Darkness Burn, or just Nora portals stalling out and hitting you with random Nora junk. So the other one is, well, look at this. Oh, wow, look at this. RYZE into Shadow Isles deck into Noxus control. So it's still 2/3 hard targeting Noxus control. Of course, Noxus control cannot hard target Noxus control. It turns into a mirror match, depending on how they tech. I can tell you this is not teched for the mirror match. If you wanted to tech for the mirror match, you would play triple Ravenbloom Conservatory, and then you would also play Evil and Perfectionist, and then you would just play for the mill out game plan, where you would just remove all their units, go to mill them out, and then you play Evil Perfectionist to shuffle 4 extra cards into your deck, and that way you can never mill out yourself. Yeah, so this is still very much 2/3 hard targeting Noxus control. This very much just kind of looks like I'm going to bring 3 really good decks that I know how to play, and it worked out. They brought 3 extremely powerful decks. They probably, I assume, played them fairly well, and they were able to take down a $100 tournament with it. So congrats to Izzy Owned, NNT taking this one down. And yeah, there's not much to say. So even in tournament meta, people are hard targeting Noxus control a lot. I played 2 rounds. Both rounds I was hard targeted. The winner of it, the winner of the whole tournament was triple SI, which was hard targeting Noxus control. The winner of the second tournament was 2/3 hard targeting Noxus control. So I think we're very much gonna put Noxus control on the back burner. I think playing in any tournaments in the near future, I'll probably not be on Noxus control anymore. I think it is just way too much hate going on for not enough reason, which is unfortunate, but sometimes that's just how it goes. Like, you might not be playing the best deck in the game, but if people think you're playing the best deck in the game, or if people like hate your deck specifically, they're just gonna go out of their way to hard target it. If you notice, all the things that hard target Noxus control are gonna lose to Kayle Leona. Like, what are you playing? Oh, you're playing Anivia? Oh, you're playing Field of Rush? Oh, you're playing all these Noxus piles? You're playing RYZE? Like, guess what all of that loses to? Kayle Leona, not Field of Rush, maybe. Maybe Field of Rush is a bad matchup. I don't even. Oh no, Field of Rush. Yeah, you're like, it's about even, slightly favored. But you know, like, all those lose to literally the most popular deck in the game, literally the second highest win rate deck in the game. And then you look at, okay, let's look at this. It's like, oh, what is this beating? Oh, it's beating Field of Rush. It's beating RYZE. It's beating SI Control again. So again, like, literally the two highest win rate decks in the game, including the most popular deck in the game, just completely beat triple Shadow Isles. But because people really hate Broadmain for some reason and think that Broadmain is the most popular, most baddest bad guy, they're going to be bringing these triple SI decks. So me personally, I'd probably be on a Kayle Leona and Tristana Noxus style deck or lineup, and then have the third deck do something as the similar tables to it. But anyways, yeah, so that's something to take into consideration. Probably stay off of the Noxus control piles for now. Probably play something if you want a hard target, if that's your type of playstyle. I would go to hard target these these Shadow Isle decks, because they're extremely popular. They're doing really well. I wish I had like the whole top 8 so I could go over and tell you like what the rest of the top 8 decks were. I'm sure I could, but it would just take a lot longer, and this video is already like half an hour long. So yeah, that's something to look out for, is probably try and beat the Shadow Isle decks. That's the next step in the process. So if you're playing in a tournament this week, that's what I would do. I would go to beat the Noxus decks, because people think, oh, I'm going to beat the Shadow Isles decks. They're like, oh, I'm going to beat all the Noxus, beat all the Broadmain. I'm bringing this like triple SI plus RYZE plus all this stuff plus L plus ratio. And you're just going to show up with, you know, triple aggro, and then they're going to cry because you're playing triple aggro into RYZE or triple aggro into something that loses to triple aggro. So that's what I would personally do. But that's going to be it for this Meta Monday. That was your tournament reports, your ladder reports. Do with that information as you will. I use Runeterra.ar for all of my stats. Not sponsored or anything. The website's just cracked. So highly recommend you go use Runeterra.ar for all of your LoR stats also. That's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, I have 3 deck guides coming out this week. It is on RYZE, Ziggs Talia, and the Tristana Noxus deck. So if you're wanting to get prepared for tournaments this weekend, or for any tournaments, and you want to learn how to play this deck quickly so you can beat all the Shadow Isles decks like I was just talking about, make sure you turn notifications on so you can learn to play that. If you're interested in RYZE to learn, oh, how are these people getting 80% win rates? Turn notifications on, because that video is coming out tomorrow also. That's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one.